Tarn was not a hero. He was just a scout pilot, flying small missions to scan planets for minerals and water. But on this day, something went wrong. His ship, the Pathfinder, shook hard as warning lights flashed red on every screen. Engine failure, he muttered, gripping the controls. The ship was falling, fast. Below, the green planet of Velen 4 stretched wide. Thick forests covered the land, and there were no cities or spaceports, just wild nature. Tarn aimed for a clear space between the trees and hoped for the best. The crash was rough. The ship slammed into the ground with a loud thud, sending dust and sparks into the air. The engine gave one final hiss before shutting down. Tarn hit, his head on the side panel, but stayed conscious. He slowly opened the hatch. A warm breeze hit his face, and he saw tall trees, strange birds, and glowing plants. Velen 4 was beautiful, but he was stuck here. Great, Tarn sighed. Now what? For the next few hours, Tarn checked his ship. The main power coil was broken. Without it, the ship couldn't fly. He would need to find metal, tools, maybe even power crystals to fix it. That meant exploring. He packed some food, water, and his small hand scanner, then started walking through the forest. The plants here were large and soft, and the air smelled sweet. But he stayed alert. Unknown planets always held surprises. After 2 hours, he spotted smoke in the distance. Smoke meant fire, and fire meant people. He moved carefully toward the source and stopped at the edge of a ridge. Below him was a small village, hidden between the trees. The houses were made of wood and clay. People walked between them carrying baskets and farming tools. But they were not human. The villagers had teal-colored skin, tall bodies, and hair like soft vines. Their eyes glowed faintly in the shade. They looked peaceful, but when they saw Tarn standing at the ridge, they froze. In fear, one child pointed. Others shouted, "Tresk! It's one of them! Hide! Everyone hide!" Within seconds, doors closed and the village became silent. Tarn raised both hands and called out, "I'm not here to hurt anyone!" But no one answered. Feeling awkward, Tarn slowly walked into the village. It was quiet except for the wind. He stopped near the center and sat on a low stone. "I'm just trying to fix my ship," he said loudly. "I crashed near here." Still, no one came out. After a long moment, an old man stepped out of a house. He was tall, with a silver robe and a walking stick. His eyes glowed bright green, and he looked at Tarn with curiosity more than fear. I'm Brum, Elder of Gava," the man said calmly. "You are not one of the bandits." "No," Tarn said. "I'm just a pilot. My name is Tarn. I didn't mean to scare anyone." Brum nodded slowly. "Then why did you come?" Tarn explained everything, his crash, his broken ship, and his need for help. Brum listened without interrupting. After a pause, Brum said, "We have little to give, but if your words are true, you may rest here tonight." That evening, villagers came out slowly, watching Tarn with careful eyes. Children stayed behind fences, peeking. One woman brought him water. A young woman named Leary, who seemed to be Brum's daughter, asked about his ship. Tarn tried to be helpful. He repaired a broken pump near their well and shared a small power cell to light their storehouse. Bit by bit, their fear turned into curiosity. "Why are they so afraid?" Tarn asked Leary as they sat near the fire. She looked serious. "The dregs. They come from the north. They steal food, burn fields, and hurt anyone who resists. Some of them look like you, off-worlders. Tarn understood. These people thought he was one of the bad ones. I'm not like them, he said. I believe you, Leary replied softly. But belief is not enough. Not when danger still lives near. That night, Tarn looked at the stars, lying beside his broken ship. He thought about the village, the fear in their eyes, and the kindness Broom had shown despite it. He whispered to himself, if I can help them, maybe I should. Tarn woke up early the next morning. The forest around the village was calm, with soft wind passing through the tall trees. Birds with glowing wings flew in the sky, and strange animals moved in the distance. Tarn liked this planet. It felt wild but peaceful. After eating a small meal, he walked back into the village of Gava. Some of the villagers now greeted him with small nods or quiet smiles. They were still unsure but not afraid anymore. He met Leary near the well. She was filling a clay jug with water. She smiled when she saw Tarn. You slept well? She asked. Better than I thought, Tarn replied. This place is quiet, different from space. Leary laughed gently. Yes, the forest protects us. It listens, even when we do not speak. Tarn raised an eyebrow. It listens? Leary nodded. That is what the old stories say. The trees remember voices. The wind carries secrets. But now, she paused and looked around. Now we only hear fear. Later that day, Elder Broom called a village meeting in the main square. Everyone gathered, men, women, children. Some looked worried, some curious. Tarn stood at the edge, listening. Broom raised his staff and said, The dregs are moving again. Gasps and murmurs filled the air. They attacked Ruma village last moon, burned their grain, took their animals. We must be ready. A young villager stood up. They have weapons. What can we do with stones and sticks? Another added. We are farmers, not fighters. Broom nodded slowly. Yes, but we must learn. We cannot run forever. Tarn stepped forward. I can help. All eyes turned to him. I've had training, he said, not in war, but in defense. I can teach you how to protect your village. You have strong people. You just need a plan. There was silence. Then Broom looked at Tarn and said, Teach us. Show us another way. For the next few days, the village changed. Tarn worked hard with the villagers. He started with simple things, how to move quietly, how to hide, how to signal danger. They built watchtowers using wood from the forest. Tarn helped them dig hidden holes with spikes and cover them with leaves. He showed them how to tie ropes between trees that would trip the enemy. You don't need big weapons, Tarn told them. You need smart ideas. Even the children helped, carrying tools, tying knots, learning secret signals. Leary trained with Tarn every day. She was quick and brave. She learned to throw stones with a sling and use a wooden staff for defense. You're strong, Tarn said one evening as they rested by a tree. Leary smiled. We were always strong. We just forgot how to use it. One morning, while checking traps near the edge of the forest, Tarn heard something strange. Leaves rustled, but there was no wind. He crouched behind a tree and waited. A figure moved between the trees. It wore a dark cloak and had a small scanner in its hand. A scout. Tarn waited until the figure was close, then jumped out and pointed his tool like a weapon. Don't move! The scout froze. It was a thin alien man with sharp eyes and a scar. across his face. He looked like someone who had lived a hard life. "Who are you?" Tarn asked. The scout smirked. "Too late, outsider, they're coming." Tarn tied the scout's hands and brought him to the village. At the village center, Broom and the others gathered. "He's one of the dregs," Tarn said. "A scout. He saw our traps." Broom looked serious. "How long until they come?" The scout laughed. 3 days, maybe 2. Our leader wants your food, your land, and maybe your heads." Some villagers looked scared. Tarn could feel it. Fear was returning, but he stepped forward. "We still have time. We've trained. We've built traps. We can win." The scout looked at Tarn and said, "You'll die with them." Tarn stared back. "Maybe, but I won't run." That night, Leary found Tarn sitting by his ship. He was looking at a small photo in his hand, a photo of his younger brother still on Earth. "You miss your home?" she asked gently. "Yes," Tarn replied. "But right now this is more important." Leary sat beside him. "You didn't have to stay. You could have waited for help. Left us." "I couldn't do that," Tarn said. "I've seen too many people get hurt by those who think they are stronger. It has to stop somewhere." Leary looked at him with quiet eyes. "You are not like the others who came from the sky." Tarn smiled. "I hope not." The next morning, Tarn stood in the village center. He looked at the people of Gava, their faces firm, their eyes ready. He said, "We are not fighting just to survive. We are fighting to protect what matters. Your homes, your families, your freedom. We are small, but we are smart, and that makes us dangerous." The villagers raised their tools and cheered. Tarn looked at the horizon. The dregs were coming, and this time, Gava would not run. The sun rose over the village of Gava, casting a soft golden light through the tall trees. Birds chirped, leaves rustled, and in the open field near the well, people stood in a line, holding staffs, stones, and wooden tools. They were not warriors, not yet. But under Tarn's training, they were becoming something stronger. Defenders. Tarn walked slowly in front of the group. His shirt was damp with sweat, and his voice was loud and clear. "When you hear the whistle, take cover. If someone falls, help them. Don't act alone. Work as one." The villagers nodded. Their faces were serious. Fear had not left them completely, but something else had taken root. Courage. Leary stood at the front of the line. Her eyes were focused, her hands firm on the wooden staff she had carved herself. Tarn gave the signal. She moved fast, dodging left, spinning, striking a tree trunk with power. Others followed, practicing side rolls, trap setting, and ambush techniques. Old farmers learned how to move without sound. Young boys learned how to send messages using whistles and mirrors. The women practiced throwing stones from slings at targets tied to trees. Tarn felt proud. They were learning faster than he expected. That afternoon, Tarn gathered a small team near the forest edge. He showed them how to build smoke flares, simple tools made with dry leaves, powder, and a spark stone. When lit, the flare would release a thick cloud of dark smoke. "If the bandits enter from the south," Tarn explained, "we light this and confuse them. Then we strike from the side." "But what if they see the traps?" asked Rem, a quiet boy with bright eyes. "We lead them toward the traps," Tarn said with a grin. "Let them think they're winning." Back in the village, Elder Broom watched. Everything from his wooden platform. His face was tired, but his eyes were filled with hope. He turned to his daughter, Leary. "This man came from the stars, yet he chose to fight for us." Leary smiled. "He doesn't act like the others who came before. He listens, he cares." Brum nodded slowly. "I see it in the people. They stand taller now." Then he looked at Leary. "And I see the way you—" "Look at him." Leary blushed, but said nothing. At night, Tarn sat with Leary near the fire, sharpening wooden spears. The stars above twinkled brightly, and the forest glowed softly in the dark. "You've changed this place," Leary said. "Even the wind sounds different now." Tarn smiled. "No. You always had this strength. I just reminded you." She looked at him carefully. "What will you do when your ship is fixed? When someone comes to get you?" Tarn was silent for a moment. He stared at the fire. "I don't know," he finally said. "I thought I would leave right away, but now I'm not sure." Leary nodded quietly. "We will miss you." Tarn looked at her. "Maybe I'll miss this place too." The next day, while inspecting the traps near the forest, Tarn heard a sudden snap. A vine had been tripped. He raised his hand. "Wait! Quiet!" Two young villagers froze beside him. From behind the trees, a low growl echoed. Then a figure appeared. It wasn't a bandit. It was one of the forest's wild beasts, a four-legged creature with thick fur, glowing red eyes, and sharp teeth. It growled again and stepped forward. "Stay calm," Tarn whispered. "Don't run." He slowly pulled a flare from his belt, lit it, and threw it near the beast. The smoke burst out with a hiss. The beast growled in confusion, turned away, and ran into the trees. The villagers let out their breath. "That was close," one said. Tarn nodded. "The forest is alive. It helps us, but it also tests us." That evening, Tarn gathered everyone in the center of the village. "We've come far," he said. "You've trained hard. You've built traps, learned signals, and stood without fear. But now we must prepare for what's coming." He turned to Elder Brum. "Did the scout say anything else?" Brum stepped forward. "He said the dregs are many. They have machines, blasters, and no mercy. They believe we will break." Tarn looked around at the villagers. "But we won't, because we fight for our homes, our children, our peace. And that is stronger than any weapon." The villagers cheered, raising their fists and tools. That night, while everyone slept, Tarn walked alone to his ship. The scanner inside was still damaged, but he had managed to power it just enough to send a low signal beacon. It was weak, but someone in space might hear it. Maybe a patrol ship, maybe a trader, maybe no one at all. He sat in the pilot seat looking at the dashboard. "You could leave," he whispered to himself. "You could fly away when the parts are ready." But something held him back. He thought of Leary, of Broom, of the small boy who now ran messages between posts like a trained scout. He thought of the smiles, the laughter, the strength. And he thought, maybe this is where I'm meant to be right now. The next morning, a runner came into the village shouting, "Smoke! From the West Hills!" Tarn jumped to his feet. "They're coming," he said. The villagers grabbed their tools and ran to their stations. Tarn looked at the sky. Clouds were darkening. Wind was rising. "Then let them come," he whispered. "Gava is ready." Smoke rose from the West Hills like a warning in the sky. The wind carried the scent of ash and something darker. Trouble. Tarn stood at the edge of the village with Elder Brum and Leary. Behind them, villagers moved quickly. taking their positions. The traps were set. The flares were ready. The people of Gava had trained for this moment. "They will come fast," Tarn said. "They will try to scare us." Brum nodded. "But we are no longer afraid." Leary looked toward the trees. "We protect our home together." The sun dropped below the trees and shadows stretched long across the ground. The village grew quiet. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Then, a sound, branches breaking, heavy boots, a loud voice shouting. "They're here," Tarn said. From the forest, a group of rough figures marched forward. There were more than 20 of them, all dressed in dark armor made from scrap metal. Some carried blasters, others had sharp blades, or clubs. At the front was a large alien with gray skin, red eyes, and a heavy metal helmet. He shouted, "Come out, little villagers, we are hungry, we are ready. Bring your food and we may leave you standing." Tarn stepped out into the open. "This is your only warning. Turn back," the bandit leader laughed. "Who are you? A lost pilot? You think you can stop us?" Tarn raised a hand, and a flare burst into the sky behind him. Suddenly, smoke rose from both sides of the path. Bandits coughed and stumbled. Arrows flew from the trees. 2 bandits fell, surprised. More smoke flares went off. The villagers of Gava, hidden in the trees and behind fences, attacked with slings, spears, and sharp stones. The bandits were confused. They fired into the smoke but hit nothing. They ran, forward, right into hidden traps. One fell into a deep hole. Another got caught in a net that lifted him off the ground. A loud snap echoed through the trees. A spiked log trap swung down and hit 2 bandits, knocking them down hard. Tarn moved quickly through the smoke, giving signals with his whistle. Villagers responded with fast attacks, then disappeared again. This was not a fight of strength. It was a fight of planning. The bandit leader shouted, "You cowards! Show yourselves!" He stepped forward with 3 of his strongest fighters right into the center square of the village. Tarn was waiting. He threw a flash flare to the ground. It exploded in a bright light. The bandits covered their eyes, shouting. Tarn attacked with a wooden staff. He moved fast, knocking one bandit down. Leary jumped from a rooftop and struck another with a long pole. The leader growled and swung his heavy weapon, but Tarn ducked and rolled to the side. More villagers joined the fight. Brum stood at the entrance of the Elders' Hall with a wooden shield in one hand, shouting words of courage. "Protect the heart! Stand for your land!" The remaining bandits started to panic. They had expected weak farmers. They had found trained defenders. Some ran into the forest, escaping the smoke. Others dropped their weapons and shouted, "We give up!" Only the bandit leader remained, breathing heavily, eyes burning with anger. He rushed toward Tarn. Tarn blocked his attack and pushed back. They fought hand to hand, Tarn using speed, the leader using power. Finally, Tarn dodged a heavy swing and struck the bandit's leg. The leader fell to one knee. Leary stepped forward with her staff aimed at him. "Thay," Bandit growled. "Do it. End it." But Tarn said, "No. You'll face the elder." The fight was over. The people of Gava stood around the fallen leader. Smoke drifted slowly through the trees. Fires were out. No houses had been burned. No lives had been lost. Brum stepped forward. "You came to break us, but we stood." The bandit leader said nothing. "You will leave this land," Brum continued. "You and your kind. And if you ever return, we will be waiting." The bandit was tied and taken to the edge of the forest. The villagers watched as the remaining enemies disappeared into the trees. Later that night, the village gathered around a large fire. There was food, music, and laughter. Children danced, mothers sang. The people were tired but happy. They had done something impossible. Tarn sat near the fire, cleaning his scratched arm. Leary sat beside him with a bowl of stew. "You fought like a warrior," she said. "So did you," Tarn replied. "You were amazing out there." Leary smiled. "We couldn't have done this without you." Tarn looked around at the people celebrating. "No, you just needed a little push. The strength was always here." Elder Broom stood and raised his staff. "Tonight," he said loudly, "we celebrate not just a victory, but a new beginning. The dregs are gone. We are no longer a village, hiding in fear. We are a people who remember who we are." He looked at Tarn. "And we thank the man from the stars who reminded us of our fire." The villagers cheered. Brum added with a laugh, "And I see my daughter can't stop looking at him. Perhaps we should call him son-in-law now." The villagers laughed loudly. Leary covered her face, and Tarn turned red. But in the middle of all, the laughter, he smiled. Because maybe, just maybe, this strange village had become his home. The night after the battle was filled with joy, but the morning was calm and peaceful. The air felt fresh, as if the forest itself was proud of what had happened. Birds flew over the village of Gava, singing soft songs. Smoke rose gently from cooking fires. For the first time in many moons, the villagers smiled without fear. Tarn walked through the village with a quiet heart. Children ran past him, laughing. Some waved. Others just looked at him with wide eyes, as if he were some kind of hero. He didn't feel like a hero. He had only done what was right. Still, it was strange. This village, these people, they had started to feel like family. Tarn stopped near the well where Leary was helping an older woman carry a basket of fruit. She looked up and smiled. "You're awake early," she said. "I couldn't sleep," Tarn replied. "Too many thoughts." Leary gave him a fresh fruit. "Sweet. Try it." He bit into it. It was juicy and rich with flavor. "Not bad," he said, smiling. They sat on a wooden bench nearby. For a moment, they just watched the village wake up. Children helped carry water. Farmers checked their fields. A group of young men rebuilt a wooden fence broken during the fight. "We were almost broken," Leary said. "But now, it feels like we've grown stronger." Tarn nodded. "You were never weak. You only needed to remember your strength." Leary looked at him gently. "And you reminded us." Later in the day, Elder Broom called another village meeting. This time it wasn't for a warning or a fight. It was a gathering of thanks. All the villagers came to the center square. There were flowers hanging from ropes, simple music from handmade drums, and food for everyone. Broom stood on a small wooden platform. "This village," he said loudly, "has lived in fear for too long. But now we stand proud. We remember who we are." He pointed at Tarn. "And the man from the sky helped us light that fire again." The people cheered. Broom smiled and added, "He came from far, but he became one of us. He fought beside us. He stood with us. And my daughter seems to like him very much." The crowd laughed. Tarn turned red. Leary shook her head, smiling. Brum laughed too. "Maybe we should call him son-in-law now." The villagers clapped and shouted, half joking, half serious. Tarn raised his hands. Let's not rush anything, Broom grinned. Well, for now, let us call him Friend of Gava, a title not easily given, but truly earned. After the ceremony, the villagers danced and celebrated. Tarn walked among them, greeting families, accepting gifts of simple food and cloth. A little girl gave him a flower crown and placed it on his head. He didn't take it off. Leary came beside him. You wear it well. I think I look like a walking garden, Tarn joked. You look like one of us, she said. That made him stop, because it felt true. As the sun began to set, Tarn sat near the edge of the forest, looking at the sky. His ship stood quietly nearby. It was still broken, but he had made progress. A few more parts and it could fly again, but he wasn't sure anymore if he wanted to leave. Leary joined him. She sat close but didn't speak right away. After a while, she asked, "Do you miss your home?" Tarn looked at the clouds. Yes, and no. Earth is busy, loud, full of machines. But here, there's peace. Space felt lonely. But here, I don't feel alone, she smiled. That is how we live, with the land, with the trees, with each other. I see that now, he said. There was a silence between them, a good silence. Then Tarn spoke again. Leary, if I stayed, would your people accept that? She looked into his eyes. They already have. Later that night, Elder Broom came to Tarn's ship. The stars above were clear and the forest was still. Broom looked at the ship, then at Tarn. You fixed some of it? Almost, Tarn replied. It could fly again soon. Broom nodded. But you haven't sent a full signal yet. Tarn looked down. No, just a beacon, in case something happens. Broom placed a hand on his shoulder. You have given much to us, but your story is not over. You must decide your path. Tarn asked, And what if I choose to stay? Broom smiled. Then we will call you family. The next morning, Tarn helped rebuild the west gate. He worked beside the villagers, laughing, sweating, building something real. A young boy came running from the trees. There's a small group near the river. Outsiders. Not bandits, but strangers. Tarn stood quickly. Show me. He and Broom walked to the edge of the river. Across the water stood a small ship, a rescue scout with a blinking light on top. A human woman in a uniform stood beside it, scanning the area. She looked up and saw Tarn. Tarn? We got your beacon signal weeks ago. You're alive, he smiled. Still breathing? We can take you home, she said. Back to Earth, to base, wherever you want. Tarn looked back at the village, at the children, at Leary, who was now standing near the tree line, watching. He looked at the sky, then back at the ground beneath his feet. Thank you, he told the rescue scout. But I already found my home. The scout ship from Earth stood quietly near the river, its lights blinking, engines humming softly. It was small, clean, and looked out of place among the trees and wooden homes of Gava. To Tarn, it felt both familiar and strange. The rescue officer, a woman named Rhea, looked at him with surprise and curiosity. You really want to stay here? She asked again. Tarn stood on the riverbank, arms crossed, watching the village in the distance. Smoke from cooking fires curled up into the sky. Children ran across the fields. Leary was standing near the well, talking to a group of villagers, and smiling. He looked back at Rhea. Yes, this place needs me. And maybe I need it too. Rhea nodded slowly. We can leave a signal relay behind. If you ever change your mind, just activate it. Tarn smiled. Thanks. She handed him a small metal cube. Press this when you're ready. Tarn took it, then watched as the scout ship lifted into the sky and vanished between the clouds. That night, the stars were brighter than ever. The forest wind whispered gently through the trees. Tarn sat near the fire with Elder Brum, who drank a warm herbal tea. So, Brum said, the sky came calling, and still you stayed. Tarn smiled. The stars are beautiful, but they're cold. Brum chuckled. And the trees are warm, eh? Tarn looked at the village. The people are. Brum nodded, then looked at Tarn with wise, gentle eyes. You've done more than defend this place. You've brought it to life again. And you've found something in return, haven't you? Tarn didn't answer, but Brum already knew. The next morning, Tarn walked through the fields with Leary. They didn't talk much. The silence was soft, like a song without words. Finally, Leary broke it. You could have gone. I know, Tarn said, but you didn't. I stayed. For many reasons. She looked at him. For me? He paused, then answered, yes, for you, for your people, for this place. Leary stopped walking and faced him. Her eyes were clear and calm. We don't ask you to be someone else. We only ask you to walk with us. Tarn smiled. That's all I want. In the days that followed, Tarn became more than just a guest. He helped build new homes and taught the villagers how to use small tools from his ship. He shared simple science, like how to store water longer or grow stronger crops. In return, the villagers taught him about the forest, how to find healing roots, how to read the stars through the trees, and how to listen when the wind carried danger. Together, they blended old ways and new. One afternoon, while repairing the broken gate, Tarn was joined by a group of boys. They had turned a broken wheel into a rolling game and ran past him, laughing loudly. One of them shouted, "Look! The Skyman is working again!" Tarn waved. "The Skyman always works." The children laughed and kept running. Brum, watching nearby, shook his head with a smile. You are one of us now. Even the children know it. Tarn looked toward the hills. Do you think the dregs will return? Brum's smile faded. Not soon. But one day someone else will come. There will always be those who want to take. The question is, will we be ready? We will be, Tarn said. Later that evening, Tarn sat on the small platform near the elder's house. Leary joined him, holding a cloth bag. She opened it slowly and pulled out a necklace. Simple, made of woven tree bark and a smooth round stone in the center. This is for you, she said. Tarn looked at it. What does it mean? It means chosen by the village. It's only given to someone who has protected Gava with both hands and heart. Tarn accepted it quietly. Thank you. Leary smiled. There is more. She reached into the bag again and pulled out a second necklace, smaller with 2 stones side by side. This is given when a heart joins another. Tarn looked at her. Are you asking? I'm not asking, Leary said softly. I'm hoping. Tarn took her hand. Then hope answered you. The next morning there was no ceremony, no loud celebration. Just a circle of close villagers, flowers on the ground, and 2 people who had found each other in the most unexpected place. Brum stood between Tarn and Leary, smiling like the happiest father on the planet. He said only one sentence. Now, he truly is my son-in-law. Everyone laughed. Days passed, then weeks. One evening, while working on the last part of his ship, Tarn found himself staring at the blinking control panel. The power was back. The system was online. The ship could fly. But he didn't feel joy. Instead, he felt peace. He walked back to the village, placed the small signal cube from the rescue officer in a wooden box, and buried it near the well. Leary stood beside him. "You're sure?" "I don't want to leave," Tarn said. "I want to live." That night, the village sang old songs. The stars above were the same ones Tarn had seen from his ship many times before. But now they felt closer. He sat beside Leary, her head on his shoulder. "You came from the sky," she whispered, and landed. "In my heart," Tarn replied. The days grew longer on Velen 4. The air turned warmer, and the forest flowers bloomed again. Life in the village of Gava had returned to peace. Children played freely, and the villagers no longer looked over their shoulders in fear. And at the center of it all stood Tarn, once a lost explorer, now a trusted part of their lives. Tarn had become a farmer, a teacher, a friend, and for many a symbol of hope. He woke each day before the sun, walked the fields with the others, and helped with building and repairs. His spacesuit, once a sign of difference, now hung near his door like an old coat. He wore simple clothes now, like any other villager. But there were still moments when he sat under the stars, his thoughts drifting back to space. It wasn't sadness, it was memory. One evening, a group of children gathered around Tarn near the fire pit. Their eyes were wide with curiosity. "Tell us a story, Skyman," one boy shouted. "No, call him Tarn of Gava," a girl giggled. Tarn laughed. "All right. I'll tell you about the time I almost got eaten by a space bug on planet Drava 2. The children leaned closer, gasping and giggling as he told the story, his arms waving, his voice rising and falling like a song. The villagers nearby smiled. Even Elder Brum, sitting quietly by the well, nodded with a look of deep pride. Later that night, Tarn walked with Leary along the edge of the forest. Fireflies danced between the tall grass. The moon above was full and bright, casting a soft glow over the village. "You've made this place stronger," Leary said. "I didn't do it alone," Tarn replied. "Your people are brave. They only needed someone to remind them. They stopped near the tall stones where the elders met during times of change." Leary looked at him. "Do you miss your old life?" Tarn thought for a moment, then shook his head. "I don't miss the stars. I brought the best of them here." Leary smiled gently. "You've changed?" Tarn nodded. "Maybe I found who I was meant to be." Days passed, and word began to spread that the nearby villages had also begun to protect themselves. Some had heard of Tarn's actions. A few even traveled to Gava to meet him, asking for help to train and defend their homes. Tarn didn't want to become a leader of many, but he knew the importance of unity, so he taught them what he knew: how to build traps, how to guard with small teams, how to stay hidden but alert. With time, the fear of the dregs faded like smoke in the wind. The forests became safe again. One clear morning, while walking by the river, Tarn noticed a small blinking light deep beneath the water. Curious, he stepped into the stream and pulled it out. It was the signal cube he had buried weeks ago. He had buried it to forget it. Now, It had floated back into his hands. He looked at it for a long time. Leary found him sitting by the river, holding the cube in silence. "Are you going to call them?" she asked. "No," Tarn said softly. "I think it's just a reminder that the past never fully disappears, but it also doesn't control the future." She sat beside him. "Then let's write a new future together." He smiled. "Yes, together." The seasons turned again. New buildings rose in the village. The villagers had built a learning hall where Tarn taught children basic science and skills. They called it the Star Room and decorated it with carved moons and suns. Inside, maps of stars hung on the walls, drawn by Tarn himself. He taught the children about gravity, planets, and even the stories of Earth. Not to make them want to leave, but to show them how big the universe could be, and yet how special their small corner of it was. One evening, the entire village gathered under the great tree near the center. Torches lit the area, and flowers decorated every table. It was a festival, a celebration of life, peace, and unity. Brum stood tall with his walking stick and shouted, "Tonight, we honor the one who came from the sky. Not to rule, not to take, but to give. Tarn, our son-in-law, our friend, our teacher. You are no longer from the stars. You are from Gava." The crowd cheered. Tarn, standing beside Leary, simply bowed his head with a grateful smile. "I didn't come to be honored," he said. "I came because I had nowhere else to go. But you gave me a home. You made me one of you. I will never forget that." Brum laughed and raised his hands. "And I will never stop reminding people that I called it first," he said, pointing at Tarn. "My son-in-law, from the very beginning." The villagers laughed with joy. Late that night, when the fires had gone out and the songs had ended, Tarn stood alone at the edge of the forest, holding the signal cube one last time. He pressed a small button. Nothing happened. He smiled. "It's broken," he said to himself. "Good." Then he tossed it gently into the river, watching as it disappeared under the moonlight. Behind him, Leary's voice came softly. "Let's go home." He turned. "Yes, let's." And together, they walked back into the light of the village.